Hello learners, I am Dr. T. Sivashakti Rajamal, Assistant Professor, Department of Educational Psychology, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai. Let us see about the topic Unit-1 Inspiration, Part 1 Behavioral Psychology. Objective. After learning this unit, the students will be able to understand the concept of behavioral psychology, to know the principles of learner behavioral psychology, to analyze the behavioral theories. Introduction. Behavioral psychology or behaviorism is a theory suggesting that environment shapes human behavior. In a most basic sense, behavioral psychology is the study and analysis of observable behavior. This field of psychology influenced thought heavily throughout the middle of the 20th century. Behaviorism focuses on the idea that all the behaviors are learned through interaction with the environment. This learning theory states that behaviors are learned from the environment and says that innate or inherited factors have very little influence on behavior. Concept of learner behavioral psychology. Behaviorism emphasizes how people interact with their environment. Over time, these interactions, called stimuli, form particular behaviors. The process by which this behavior is formed is known as conditioning. Psychologist John B. Watson is most commonly cited as a founding father of cognitive behavioral psychology. According to this school of thought, also known as behavioral psychology, behavior can be studied in a systematic and observable manner regardless of internal mental states. Behavioral theory also says that only observable behavior should be studied as cognition, emotions, and mood are far too subjective. Principles of learner behavior psychology. The primary tenet of behaviorism is that psychology should concern itself with the observable behavior of people and animals, not with unobservable events that take place in their minds. The behaviorist criticized the mentalist for their inability to demonstrate empirical evidence to support their claims. Behaviorist psychology should concern itself with the observable behavior of people and animals, not with unobservable events that take place in their minds. The main influences of behaviorist psychology were Ivan Pavlov, 1849 to 1936, Edward Lee Thorndike, 1874 to 1949, John B. Watson, 1878 to 1958, and B.F. Skinner, 1904 to 1990. The idea that we develop responses to certain stimuli that are not naturally occurring is called classical conditioning. Operant conditioning refers to how an organism operates on the environment or how it responds to what is presented to it in the environment. Reinforcement means to strengthen and is used in psychology to refer to any stimulus that strengthens or increases the probability of a specific response. There are 4 types of reinforcement: positive, negative, punishment, and extinction. Behaviorist researchers used experimental methods, Bustle, box, operant conditioning, or Skinner box, Little Albert experiment to investigate learning process. Today, behaviorism is still prominent in applications such as gamification. Simple learned behaviors. Learned behaviors, even though they may have innate components or underpinnings, allow an individual organism to adapt to changes in the environment. Learned behaviors are modified by previous experiences. Example of simple learned behaviors include habituation and imprinting. Habituation. Habituation is a simple form of learning in which an animal stops responding to a stimulus or cue after a period of repeated exposure. This is a form of non associative learning, meaning that the stimulus is not linked with any punishment or reward. For example, prey dogs typically sound an alarm call when threatened by a predator. At first, they will give this alarm call in response to hearing human steps, which indicate the presence of a large and potentially hungry animal. However, the prairie dogs gradually become habituated to the sound of human footsteps as they repeatedly experience the sound without anything bad happening. Eventually, they stop giving the alarm call in response to footsteps. In this example, habituation is specific to the sound of human footsteps as the animals still respond to the sounds of potential predators. Next one is imprinting. Imprinting is a simple and highly specific type of learning that occurs at a particular age or life stage during the development of certain animals such as ducks and geese. When ducklings catch, they imprint on the first adult animal they see, typically their mother. Once a duckling has imprinted on its mother, the sight of the mother, the sight of the mother acts as a cue to trigger a suite of survival promoting behaviors, such as following the mother around and imitating her. Conditioned behaviors. Ivan Pavlov's classical conditioning. Conditioned behaviors are the result of associative learning, which takes two forms: classical conditioning and operant conditioning. In classical conditioning, a response already associated with one stimulus is associated with a second stimulus to which it had no previous connection. The most famous example of classical conditioning comes from Ivan Pavlov's experiment in which dogs were conditioned to drool, a response previously associated with food upon hearing the sound of a bell. As Pavlov observed, and as you may have noticed too, dogs salivate or drool in response to the sight or smell of food. This is something dogs do innately without any need for learning. In the language of classical conditioning, this existing stimulus response pair can be broken into an unconditioned stimulus, the sight or smell of food, and an unconditioned response drooling. In Pavlov's experiments, every time a dog was given food, another stimulus was provided alongside the unconditioned stimulus. Specifically, a bell was rung at the same time the dog received food. This ringing of the bell paired with food is an example of a conditioning stimulus. A new stimulus delivered in parallel with the unconditioned stimulus. Over time, the dogs learned to associate the ringing of the bell with food and to respond by drooling. Eventually, they would respond with drool when the bell was rung, even when the unconditioned stimulus, the food, was absent. This new artificially formed stimulus response pair consists of a conditioned stimulus, the bell ringing, and a conditioned response drooling. Is the unconditioned response drooling in response to food identical to conditioned response drooling in response to the bell? No. Not necessarily. Pavlov discovered that the saliva in the conditioned dogs was actually different in composition than the saliva of unconditioned dogs. Next one is Skinner's operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is a bit different than classical conditioning in that it does not rely on an existing stimulus response pair. Instead, whenever an organism performs a behavior or an intermediate step on the way to the complete behavior, it is given a reward or a punishment. At the first, the organism may perform the behavior, example, pressing a lever purely by chance. Through reinforcement, the organism is induced to perform the behavior more or less frequently. One prominent early investigator of operant conditioning was the psychologist B.F. Skinner, the inventor of the Skinner box. See the given image. Skinner put rates in boxes containing a lever that would dispense food when pushed by the rat. The rat would initially push the lever a few times by accident and would then begin to associate pushing the lever with getting the food. Over time, the rat would push the lever more and more frequently in order to obtain the food. Not all of Skinner's experiments involved pleasant treats. The bottom of the box consisted of a metal grid that could deliver an electric shock to rats as a punishment. When the rat got an electric shock each time it performed a certain behavior, it quickly learned to stop performing the behavior. As these examples show, both positive and negative reinforcement can be used to shape an organism's behavior in operant conditioning. Understanding human behavior. Human behavior is the potential and expressed capacity, mentally, physically, and socially, of human individuals or groups to respond to internal and external stimuli throughout their life. Behavior is driven by genetic and environmental factors that affect an individual. A study of human behavior has revealed that 90% of the population can be classified into four basic personality types: optimistic, pessimistic, trusting, and envious. However, the latter of the four types of envious is the most common, with 30% compared to 20% for each of the other groups. Optimistic. Those who believe they and their partner are capable of making the best decision for themselves. Pessimists. Those who pick the lesser of two evils when faced with options. Trusting. Those who collaborate with their partners and don't mind whether they win or lose. Envious. Those who don't mind what they achieve as long as they are better than everyone else. The study of human behavior has played an important role in improving the lives of people who have mental health and behavioral disorders. It has also facilitated advancement in areas such as early childhood education, organizational behavior management, and public health. Conclusion. Behaviorism is a study of how controlled changes to a subject's environment affect the subject's observable behavior. Teachers control the environment and use a system of rewards and punishments in an effort to encourage the desired behaviors in the subject. Summary. Behaviorism focuses on the idea that all the behaviors are learned through interaction with the environment. Behavioral psychology influenced thought heavily throughout the middle of the 20th century. Psychologists John V. Watson, is most commonly cited as a founding father of cognitive behavioral psychology. The most famous example of classical conditioning comes from Ivan Pavlov's experiment in which dogs were conditioned to droll a response previously associated with food upon hearing the sound of a bell. One prominent early investigator of operant conditioning was the psychologist B.F. Skinner, the inventor of the Skinner box. Skinner put rats in boxes containing a lever that would dispense food when pushed the rat. Four basic personality types, that is optimistic, pessimistic, trusting, and envious. Finally, objective type questions. Question number 1. Behavioral psychology influenced thought heavily throughout the middle of the century. Options: Option A 18th, Option B 19th, Option C 20th, Option D 21st. Try to remember. The answer is Option C 20th century. Next question. Who is the father of cognitive behavioral psychology? Options: Option A John B. Watson, Option B Ivan Pavlov, Option C J.M. Cattell, Option D Alfred Binet. Try to remember. The answer is Option A John B. Watson. Question number 3. The idea that we develop responses to certain stimuli that is not naturally occurring is called dash. Options: Option A operant conditioning, Option B classical conditioning, Option C reinforcement, Option D behaviorism. Try to remember the answer. The answer is Option B classical conditioning. Question number 4. Skinner box used in dash. Options: Option A classical conditioning, Option B operant conditioning, Option C behaviorism, Option D attention model. Try to remember. Answer is Option B operant conditioning. Question number 5. How many basic personality types in human behavior? Options: Option A 4 types, Option B 5 types, Option C 3 types, Option D 2 types. Try to remember. The answer is Option A 4 types. Thank you. Hello learners, I am Dr. T. Sivashakti Rajammal, Assistant Professor, Department of Educational Psychology, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai. Let us see about the topic Unit 1 Inspiration, Part 2, Types and Functions of Inspiration. Objective: after learning this unit, the students will be able to understand the concept of inspiration, to identify the types of inspiration, to know the functions of inspiration. Introduction. Inspiration is a feeling of enthusiasm you get from someone or something which gives you new and creative ideas. To inspire students is in some ways a more ambitious goal. It requires not only drawing out what they already have but also raising them to a new level, not only bringing out hidden knowledge but also breathing in new life. Education needs inspiration, not just information. Only inspired human beings can transform their own lives and lives around them. Motivation is momentary, inspiration can last a lifetime. Motivation comes from outside. Inspiration comes from inside. Motivation pushes you. Inspiration bulls you. Types of inspiration. There are two types of inspiration. First one is passive inspiration. Passive inspiration consuming the success and ideas of others. Second one is active inspiration. Active inspiration, creating things, applying new ideas, to our goals and making mistakes. Role of inspiration. Feeling inspired in your day to day life can play a key role in unlocking creativity, increasing productivity, and boosting happiness. People who regularly feel inspired at home and at work tend to be more engaged, more confident, and more motivated to solve problems and create new things. Theory of motivation. Maslow hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow is among the most prominent psychologists of the 20th century, and the hierarchy of needs accompanied by the pyramid representing how human needs are ranked. Maslow's theory is based on a simple premise: human beings have needs that are hierarchically ranked. Maslow 1943 and Maslow 1954. There are some needs that are basic to all the human beings, and in their absence, nothing else matters. As we satisfy these basic needs, we start looking to satisfy higher order needs. Once a lower level need is satisfied, it no longer serves as a motivator. The most basic of Maslow's needs are physiological needs. Physiological needs refer to the need for air, food, and water. Imagine being very hungry. At that point, all your behavior may be directed at finding food. Once you eat, though, the search for food ceases and the promise of food no longer serves as a motivator. Once physiological needs are satisfied, people tend to become concerned about safety. Are they safe from danger, pain, or an uncertain future? One level up, social needs refer to the need to bond with other human beings, to be loved, and to form lasting attachments. In fact, having no attachment can negatively affect health and well being. The satisfaction of social needs makes esteem needs more salient. Esteem needs refer to the desire to be respected by one's peers, feeling important, and being appreciated. Finally, at the highest level of the hierarchy, the need for self actualization. Self actualization refers to becoming all you are capable of becoming. This need manifests itself by acquiring new skills, taking on new challenges, and behaving in a way that will lead to the satisfaction of one's life goals. Functions of inspiration. The tripartite conceptualization specifies the three core characteristics of the state of inspiration: evocation, transcendence, and approach motivation. Evocation refers to the fact that inspiration is evoked rather than initiated volitionally by the individual. During an episode of inspiration, the individual gains awareness of new possibilities that transcend ordinary or mundane concerns. The new awareness is vivid and concrete, and it surpasses the ordinary constraints of willfully generated ideas. Once inspired, the individual experiences a compelling approach motivation to transmit, actualize, or express the new vision. This set of three characteristics is intended to be minimally sufficient to distinguish the state of inspiration from other states. Teach can inspire. As an educator, finding inspiration is just as easy as finding frustration is. Let's be honest, teaching is hard and it only gets harder every year. Teachers can choose to focus on the things they can't control and in turn let frustration control them, or they can choose to focus on the things within their control and work on improving their influence with those around them. It's all about how teachers approach their role in education. Finding inspiration is all about mindset. If one has a growth and mindset and a continuous um, improvement approach to education and life, then inspiration is consistently present. Simple ways to bring inspiration into the classroom. These ideas can be incorporated in small and brief ways in any lesson plan of any course. Bring nature into the classroom with flowers, plants, objects such as cells or stones and natural oddities. Start classes or activities with poetry, music, literature that is moving and pertains to the theme of the lesson. Utilize art as decoration or as part of an activity that portrays the beauty, strength, resilience, and diversity of the human body. Look for and use designs in art or nature that illustrate an organizing pattern in the body. Plan moments of silence. Begin or end classes with meditation, mindfulness exercises, or simply paying attention to the breath. Plan moments when movement and stretching are used. Organize group activities such as setting a learning intention as a class. Acknowledge student progress and demonstrate compassion and gratitude. Find the laughter, fun, spontaneity, and creative expression in massage. Hold discussion about what and who inspires and motivates students. Summary. Inspiration is a feeling of enthusiasm you get from someone or something which gives you new and creative ideas. Passive inspiration consuming the success and ideas of others. Active inspiration creating things, applying new ideas to our goals and making mistakes. The most basic of Maslow needs are physiological needs. Physiological needs refer to the need for air, food, and water. The tripartite conceptualization specifies the three core characteristics of the state of inspiration, evocation, transcendence, and approach motivation. Once inspired, the individual experiences a compelling approach motivation to transmit, actualize, or express the new vision. This set of three characteristics is intended to be minimally sufficient to distinguish the state of inspiration from other state. Teacher can find inspiration is all about mindset. Objective type questions. First question. Inspiration is a feeling of dash. The option is option A, enthusiasm, option B, warmth, option C, unwillingness, option D, weakness. Try to remember the answer is option A, enthusiasm. Question number 2. The most basic of Maslow needs are dash needs. Options: option A, safety, option B, physiological, option C, psychological, option D, esteem. Try to remember the answer is option B, physiological. Question number 3. Which one of the following is not in core characteristics of the state of inspiration? Options: option A, evocation, option B, approach, Option C, meditation. Option D, transcendence. Try to remember. The answer is option C, meditation. Question number 4. Inspiration is also called dash. Options: option A, motivation. Option B, remembering. Option C, forgetting. Option D, attention. Try to remember. The answer is option A, motivation. Question number 5. A teacher can inspire students depends upon her dash. Options: option A, mindset. Option B, attitude. Option C, aptitude. Option D, intelligence. Try to remember. The answer is option A, mindset. Thank you, learners. Hello, learners. I am Dr. T. Sivashakti Rajammal, Assistant Professor, Department of Educational Psychology, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai. Let us see about the topic Unit 1, Inspiration, Part 3, Rewards and Punishment and Factors Influencing Inspiration in Education. Objective: after learning this unit, the students will be able to understand the concept of inspiration in education, to identify the usage of rewards and punishment in education, to know the factors influencing inspiration in education. Introduction. One of the primary teaching objectives for instructors is to inspire students and to encourage and stimulate them to engage with the learning in such a way that they begin to generate their own enthusiasm. Inspiration gives us both of means and the motivation to rise above, be creative, grow closer to our goals, learn from others, and achieve enhanced well-being. Inspirational quotes. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world, says B.B. King. Genius is 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. Thomas Edison. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated. R. Collier. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. Albert Einstein. A person who never made a mistake, never tried anything new. Albert Einstein. 5 common steps to get your students inspired about learning. First one, encourage students. Students look to teachers for approval and positive reinforcement and are more likely to be enthusiastic about learning if they feel their work is recognized and valued. You should encourage open communication and free thinking with your students to make them feel important. Be enthusiastic. Praise your students often. Recognize them for their contributions. If your classroom is a friendly place where students feel heard and respected, they will be more eager to learn. A good job or nice work can go a long way. Second one, get them involved. One way to encourage students and teach them responsibility is to get them involved in the classroom. Make participating fun by giving each student a job to do. Give students the responsibility of dyeing up or decorating the classroom. Assign a student to erase the blackboard or pass out materials. If you are going over a reading in class, ask students to take turns reading section out loud. Make students work in groups and assign each a task or role. Giving students a sense of ownership allows them to feel accomplished and encourages active participation in classroom. Third one, offer incentives. Setting expectations and making reasonable demands encourages students to participate, but sometimes students need an extra push in the right direction. Offering students small incentives makes learning fun and motivates students to push themselves. Incentives can range from small to large, giving a special privilege to an exemplary student to a class pizza party if the average test score rises. Rewards give students a sense of accomplishment and encourage them to work with a goal in mind. Fourth one, get creative. Avoid monotony by changing around the structure of your class. Teach through games and discussions instead of lectures. Encourage students to debate and enrich the subject matter with visual aids like colorful charts, diagrams, and videos. You can even show a movie that effectively illustrates a topic or theme. Your physical classroom should never be boring. Use posters, models, student projects, and seasonal themes to decorate your classroom and create a warm, stimulating environment. Fifth one, draw connections to real life. When will I ever need this? This question, too often heard in the classroom, indicates that a student is not engaged. If a student does not believe that what they are learning is important, they won't want to learn. So it is important to demonstrate how the subject relates to them. If you are teaching algebra, take some time research how it is utilized practically, for example in engineering, and share your findings with your students. Really amaze them by telling them that they may use it in their career. Showing them that its subject is used every day by real people gives it new importance. They may never be excited about algebra, but if they see how it applies to them, they may be motivated to learn attentively. Rewards and punishments. Rewards and punishments are the potent and powerful incentives. They can be safely used for the achievement of desired motivation in the classroom situations. Both of these are powerful incentives and try to influence the future conduct or learning of an organism favorably. Both reward and punishment are essentially used for educational purposes. They are deliberately chosen by teachers to make learning process effective. It further aims to improve students' learning achievement. A well-selected reward and punishment contribute to students' learning effectiveness. The use of punishment and reward will bring forth useful result in the learning process of the students. Punishment can effectively eliminate an undesirable responses. In learning, it is most effective to reward or punish the student immediately after the desired response occurs. Punishment may take the form of suspension, manual work, expulsion, dismissal, isolation, detention, after school, scolding, written lines, restitution, being sent to the headmaster, and being deprived of certain privilege. Factors that influence students' inspiration in education. First one, class and curriculum structure. When students sense or see that classes follow a structure and the curriculum and class materials have been prepared beforehand, it provides them with a greater sense of security. The feeling of security is one of our basic needs. When that's provided in a learning environment, it allows students to fully focus on the learning material. To help students feel more secure, educators need to plan classes and curriculums. All materials that will be used in class should be prepared in advance. Educators can also state the objectives of a courses or class at the beginning of a semester or a class. Second one, teacher behavior and personality. If a student has a negative emotion such as fear or disliking towards their teacher, that can negatively affect their attitude toward the subject as a whole. If a teacher shows a preference towards certain students or uses derogatory and humiliating language, that can lower their motivation in education. On the other hand, kindness, optimism, positive feedback, and encouragement can positively affect students' motivation to learn. Third one, teaching methods. Students are more likely to retain their motivation in education if educators use different teaching methods. They create diversity and prevents students from getting bored. Giving room for certain choices such as which partner they did like to work with can be beneficial too. Students in a single class are likely to have different styles of learning. Thus, a teacher is more likely to meet these needs by applying different teaching methods. Fourth one is parental habits and involvement. Quite a few parental habits can indirectly affect the motivation of children. Intrinsic motivation in particular. These include showing interest in the child's learning material, inquiring about their day, actively listening, helping with specific tasks or skills taught at school, attending parent meetings, encouraging children complete homework or study for a test. Another habit that's been proven to improve motivation is reading. Reading to with small children helps them develop literacy faster than talking does. However, reading comprehension level can determine students' success in later school years. Fifth one is family issues and instability. Same as the lack of security in the classroom, the lack of security at home can negatively impact motivation in education. Children who live with both parents on average get better grades than children who don't. Family conflicts and disruption can result in poor academic performance. Some examples include divorce, loss of one or both parents, not living with the biological father or mother, not having contact with the biological father or mother, frequently moving from one home to another, being or have been involved with child protective services. As a result, in certain instances, additional support may be needed from schools to help students with their issues. Sixth one, peer relationships. As children grow older, the influence peers have upon them increases as well. Therefore, problems and conflicts with peers can make students feel less secure about their social status among peers, increase their stress levels, and lower motivation in education. Seventh one, learning environment. School environment or school climate is another factor that affects motivation in education. School environment refers to different norms and regulations that determine the overall climate in the school. Positive school environment makes students feel safe and secure, meets their basic needs such as daily meals, and provides an optimal environment for them to build a healthy social relationship. Too many classes and learning environment that is too serious can also lower motivation in education. Adding a fun element to classes can help to the atmosphere and improve motivation and results. Allowing enough time for play and rest can also have a positive effect. Eighth one, assessment. While standardized assessment increases the standards of attainment, it can negatively influence students' motivation in education, especially at a younger age. It is also common for students to lose motivation if tests are continuously too challenging. This does not provide a sense of achievement and lowers motivation in education over time. Thus, it's important for educators to experiment with and apply different testing methods which would be able to address the different learning needs of students. Summary. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. Says B. King. A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. Says Albert Einstein. Inspiration gives us both the means and the motivation to rise above, be creative, grow closer to our goals, learn from others, and achieve enhanced well being. Teach through games and discussions instead of lectures, encourage students to debate and enrich the subject matter with visual aids like colorful charts, diagrams, and videos. Rewards and punishment are the potent and powerful incentives. Quite a few parental habits can indirectly affect the motivation of children, intrinsic motivation in particular. Objective type question. First question, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world, said by dash. Options, option A, Albert Einstein, option B. King, option C, R. Collier, option D, Thomas Edison. Try to remember. The answer is option B. King. Question number 2. Inspiration gives us dash. Options. Option A, motivation to rise. Option B, be creative. Option C, both A and B. Option D, none of the above. Try to remember. The answer is option C, both A and B. Third question, which one of the following teaching aid is not used in the creative method of inspiration? Options, option A, visual aids, option B, blackboard, option C, colorful charts, option D, videos. Try to remember. The answer is option B, blackboard. Fourth question, rewards and punishments are the dash incentives. Options, option A, powerful, option B, professional, option C, fun, option D, profit. Try to remember. The answer is option A, powerful. Fifth question. A few parental habits can dash affect the motivation of children. Options. Option A directly, option B indirectly, option C strictly, option D particularly. Try to remember the answer is option B indirectly. Thank you.